My top priorities as Attorney General are going to be to take the politics and ideology out of the office and put the law first. I want to refocus resources on protecting Virginians and keeping their families safe. I want to make sure that the rights of all Virginians are protected and defended, and I'm going to restore ethics to the Office of Attorney General. Those are my top priorities. Let me take a minute and tell you about each one of those. First, we need to take the politics and the ideology out of the office. For the last 4 years, we've had an Attorney General under Ken Cuccinelli who has bent and twisted the law in order to impose policies on Virginians that are way outside the mainstream. And my opponent, Mark Obenshain, would be a continuation of the same. The office is too important to do that. And I want to take the kind of politics and ideology out of it and put the law first. Let me share with you an example of what I mean by that. Ken Cuccinelli, shortly after taking office, sued UVA and a professor, Michael Mann, because he disagreed with his research on climate change. Now, not only is that not a fair interpretation of the law, but he did so based on ideological reasons to appeal to a narrow band of his political base, and that's wrong. The office should not be used for that. I want to take the kind of politics and ideology that he's put into the office out, and I'll put the law first. Second, I want to refocus attention on keeping Virginians and their families safe. Now, what I've done as a state senator is to work to update our laws and make sure that we're keeping one step ahead of the criminals. When designer drugs came into Virginia and spread like wildfire, drugs like bath salts and spice, I worked to crack down on that and get those dangerous drugs off the shelves of convenience stores and out of the hands of our kids. When I saw that criminals were targeting older Virginians and committing scams and financial fraud on older Virginians and those who were suffering from some kind of diminished capacity, I worked hard and worked with all kinds of groups across Virginians to pass a tough law against that kind of financial abuse and protect Virginians and older Virginians in particular. On the area of sexual and domestic violence, I've worked really hard to strengthen our laws against sexual and domestic violence. And there's a lot more we can do. We need to work not only to toughen our laws, but to make sure that we're preventing sexual and domestic violence as much as we can. And there's so much more we can do. One of the things that I'd like to do as Attorney General is institute a lethality assessment program so when first responders go to the scene of a domestic or sexual violence, they can talk with the victim and walk through a series of questions to find out if the victim is at risk of even further violence, and if so, help the victim get to the services in the community that they need. Those are the kinds of things that I've done as a state senator, and what I want to do is build on those legislative successes to make sure that our laws are up to date and we're staying one step ahead of the criminals. And as I've always done, I will be a strong ally of state and local law enforcement and prosecutors. I've always been there to make sure that they have the resources they need to do their job, and as Attorney General, I always will. So taking the politics and ideology out of the office, making sure that we refocus our efforts on protecting Virginians and keeping their families safe, and third, protecting and defending the rights of all Virginians. That includes making sure that women have the right to make their own private health care decisions and have access to the full range of comprehensive reproductive health services. It means standing up and working to end discrimination, whether it's of the LGBT community or whether it's of minorities, and making sure that we defend and protect people's voting rights. These are all important rights of all Virginians, and we need an Attorney General who recognizes that and will protect them. Every time Virginia ends up being the made fun of on the late night comedy shows, it hurts not only all of us as Virginians, but it injures our reputation as a state around the country. And we cannot continue to have that kind of hostility to the LGBT community, to women, to minorities. We've got to be an open and welcoming state, and as Attorney General, that's what I'll do. And fourth, we need to restore ethics to the Office of Attorney General. We have been reminded over the last few months of how important it is to elect officials who are honest and have integrity. Nobody in public office should be accepting lavish gifts. That has no place in public office. We need to restore integrity. Those are going to be my priorities. Taking the politics and ideology out of the office and putting the law first. Protecting Virginians and keeping their families safe. Defending and protecting the rights of all Virginians, and returning ethics and integrity to the Office of Attorney General.